Hello juniors, and welcome to your computer hardware video. So we're going to be going over, this is the video that you're watching currently. We're going to be going over this presentation and your hardware discussion post and what's required for that. So let's go to the presentation. First, what we're going to be talking about is the computer parts. So we'll do a review on that, but we'll do a little bit more dive into more information. So we'll be talking about how you check the compatibility of these different parts if you were to build your own computer. And then we're also going to talk about your laptop research assignment. So let's jump right into the parts review. The first part we're going to talk about is the optical drive. Remember that this helps read media such as CDs and DVDs, and sometimes they can write onto media. You have to check that if it has the capability of writing, because not all come with that. If you're going to get one that's just for DVDs, it's around $50, upwards of that. And if you want a Blu-ray one, something that can read Blu-ray or write Blu-ray, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. For some things that you can think about when you're talking about compatibility, it's all about the drive of the style and size of it. So most drives are about 3.5 inches wide, and so you just have to check your case to make sure that it's 3.5 inches wide. Then it just connects to your motherboard via SATA cable. Next, we have the hard drive, or the solid state drive. These are two different types of drive. This is the hard drive, which is a physical disk. It's a hard disk drive, and you physically write the memory onto there. Then there's the solid state drive, which stores the memory in microchips. And as I've been saying, this is used for long-term memory storage. So it's used for storing operating systems, executable programs, like all of your Adobe programs, and then all the files that you save. Once you click save, it saves onto your hard drive or your solid state drive. When you're talking about like compatibility, it just connects with a SATA cable, and you'll want to check which SATA cable you need, because different SATA cables can transfer at different speeds. So like SATA 2 transfers at about 3 gigabytes per second. SATA 3 transfers at 6. So if you need faster, you'll need a faster SATA cable. Typically, you'll want around 500 gigabytes for capacity for your hard drive. That's a good starting amount, just to make sure that you have everything. But if you're just doing stuff like school, then you wouldn't need that much. You could get by with just like 250. And then there's different speeds that it has. So it has a spin speed. So like a couple of the numbers are like 5,200 rates per minute or 7,200. So obviously a faster one is going to write faster, and that's for hard disk drives. And then for solid state drives, you measure it in megabytes per second. So they can read or write 200 megabytes per second or 550 megabytes per second. Next, you have the RAM, or random access memory. This is like the short-term memory. It stores currently processed data. So if you're opening a Microsoft Word document, as soon as it's opened, it's in the RAM, and it's storing all of that stuff, all of the information you have in the RAM. That's why if you don't click save, you don't have it, because the RAM gets wiped every time the computer turns off. This starts at about like $100, depending on like the different things you're looking for. So those things, there's the type. So when you're checking to make sure that your RAM works with your motherboard, you have to check that the type matches up. So some motherboards will call for DDR3, which means that you need to get a DDR3 RAM. But there's DDR4, DDR2, DDR1. Obviously, DDR4 is the newest. Then there's speed, so this is how fast it writes. There's like 800, 1300, 1600. Then there's storage space available. The higher the storage, the more that you can have processing at one time. So it starts as low as 2 gigabytes, but our computers have like 8 gigabytes in them. So we suggest that you don't normally go below 8 gigabytes. Then when you're also worrying about compatibility, you need to worry about the number of 6. number of sticks. So different motherboards have different amount of RAM slots available. So you need to make sure that you don't buy more RAM than you have RAM slots. And then you have to worry about the chipset. So you have to worry about, does the amount of pins on this match? So the pin amount, does that match how many that the motherboard can take? Next, we have the video card / graphics card. This is used to produce the image that you see on the monitor. Our laptops don't have this. It's dedicated. The graphics are processed in the CPU, which we'll talk about later. But if you have a dedicated card, obviously your computer is going to process graphics better. That's why for gaming, you typically want a nice graphics card to run all those graphics, to process all those graphics, and your CPU can focus on running the game. Depending on what you need, the price range varies. It starts at about $100 and can go up into the thousands for a really nice graphics card. And if you're like a video editor or something like that, you'll need a nice one as well. Some of the things you have to worry about for compatibility are like slot type, and then the slot type speed, which is normally recognized in PCIe, and then there's like 2.0, 3.0. So that's what you have to worry about when you're checking to make sure that your video card matches with your motherboard. Next is the power supply. This converts AC low voltage, like main AC power, to low voltage regulated DC power that can be used for the internal components of the computer. So it has a plug for all the internal parts: the graphics card, the motherboard, the hard drive, the not the RAM. The RAM is powered by the motherboard, but it has plugs for all of these different things, and it helps protect from surge. So if a surge happens, your power supply is what's going to go first, not your whole computer. And what you have to worry about normally with the power supply is, does it fit in your computer? So you just have to look at the dimensions within your computer. And then you also have to make sure that that there's enough watts. It produces enough for all of your computer parts. So you have to add up how much watts each of your computer parts uses, and then make sure that your power supply goes over that. You can normally get them pretty cheap, like $50. But if you need a nicer one, like more wattage, you'll need to spend a little bit more. Heatsink, this is used for cooling your CPU. So you just put it on top, and it's got a fan, and then it's got the heatsink below it that takes the heat away from the CPU. Nothing really special about this. You just have to make sure that it fits into your case as well. And then, speaking of CPU, this is the brain of your computer. It stands for Central Processing Unit. It processes all the instructions that we give the computer. So it has 4 main functions: fetch, decode, execute, and then write back to the hard disk drive. These are normally pretty expensive, starting at around $150. And then you have the motherboard, which is the last part we're going to talk about. It's like the circuit board. It connects everything and allows everything to communicate. So when you're watching for this, you have to watch that all of the parts of this, the RAM, the CPU, the graphics card, that they fit with the motherboard and that they go with it. So having a nice motherboard or a quality motherboard is a good start to having a good computer, because it can facilitate all those parts speaking. So if you have any questions about what we've gone over, or you want to dive deeper into computer parts, you can always reach out to me. My email is mwilliams24@wisst.edu. But next, I want to jump into the laptop research activity. So for this activity, you will be researching your ITA laptop a little bit more and posting what you find. So first, you will be finding the model of your computer by yourself. You can start with a Google search of "find my laptop model," and you can use the results you find to find what your model is. Once you have found your model, you're going to go onto YouTube and find a tutorial on how to take apart your laptop. So you're going to find some YouTube tutorial that shows you, how do I take apart this laptop? And then finally, you will submit all this information in a Canvas post. So your post should have the laptop model, as well as a link to the YouTube tutorial of taking apart your laptop. So that's all you have to do for this assignment. Just find that information, put it in a discussion post, and post it. Again, the discussion post is right here, and within the discussion post, there's the activity prompt, and it gives you all the instructions. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, my email is mwilliams24@wis.edu. All right, juniors, I will see you later.